I am going to discuss common mistakes that people make when moving a plant from soil to leca. If you make one of these mistakes, the chances of your plant successfully transitioning from soil to leca are greatly reduced. The first mistake is not researching your plant. Is this plant suitable to live in your home? Do you have adequate light? Is it a plant that requires a lot of humidity, like calatheas? Can you keep this plant as warm as it needs to be? Find a plant that can suit what you can provide. The size of the plant is very important. Is the plant that you're transitioning from soil to leca a big plant or a small plant? It is generally easier to transition a smaller plant from soil to leca because it's still quite small. It's basically not set in its ways. It's easy to manage the conditions as well. If you've got a bigger plant, you might need to go through what I like to call the long method of soil to leca transition. And that is where you put the plant in a nutrient solution first and allow those water roots to come through before you move it to leca. A good example of this is my philodendron bilete over here. I got this plant and it was pretty much this size. It's a pretty big plant and I transitioned it from soil to leca using the long method. I've actually got a video where I demonstrate how I do that. Just click on the link above and you will see. It was best to do it this way because the chances of me failing if I moved it straight from soil to leca were going to be pretty high. The long method really helps for plants that you're a bit nervous about, bigger plants, and I discuss the long method a lot more in a video that you will find on the link above. Preparing your leca. I cannot stress this enough. You need to prepare your leca. So obviously when you get your leca, you need to wash it. And you need to wash it several times until you can get it running as clear as you possibly can. The next thing is you need to have it soaking for not less than 24 hours. I've had several people say to me, I put my plant in leca and the top part of the leca is dry. The bottom part of the leca that's in touch with the reservoir is wet, but the top leca is dry. And I bet you the reason that's happening is because that leca was not completely soaked through. Leca works by capillary action and it needs to be completely saturated in order for the water and nutrients to move from one leca ball to the next leca ball to the next leca ball. Now, if your leca is not as saturated as it can be, this does not work effectively. And as a result, your leca is going to end up being dry. Now, the problem with this as well is if your leca is dry, leca is made to absorb moisture. So it will start to absorb the moisture from your roots and your plant will crash and that will be deemed a leca failure. But that will be because you did not adequately prepare your leca. I'll give you a little tip here. You never know when you're going to get a new plant, right? You never know when you're going to want to do a soil to leca transfer. So what I do is I have a lovely little bucket where I keep leca that's been washed and it's soaking in my nutrient solution. So I don't only soak my leca in water, I soak it in the nutrient solution that I'm going to use to do that soil to leca transition, because then that primes those roots to be going and I'm just giving them that little extra help that they need to get going. Not adequately preparing your plant is another reason moves from soil to leca would fail. I have my little Hoya plant here. I'm going to use this to demonstrate how to properly prepare a plant to move from soil to leca. There are two ways that you can do this. The first way is to completely remove all the soil roots and have the plant living in leca and have it struggle through, develop new roots and start to grow. I don't use this method typically. It scares me, so I don't use it. But I just thought I'd let you know that that's one way you can do things. The method I like to use is completely remove all the organic matter off the roots, remove all the dead and dying roots, put the plant in leca. Then when I do that, I will keep flushing it and removing the plant and removing dead roots if I need to. And while all this is happening, the plant is developing leca roots. I'll bring you down and show you how I prepare my plant. Grab my plant, gently squeeze that pot, get the plant out. This plant has got organic matter around those roots, so I want to remove as much of those as I can. I just use my hands to gently pry all that organic matter off. That is all the big chunks of soil, perlite, bark, and everything completely off those roots. I will now go and wash this plant off. This is warm water. So gently washing the roots and cleaning the leaves as I'm doing this. And when I'm placing my plant, I put it a bit deeper into the pot. It's easier to pull up your plant if you need to than to squish it down into the leca. I've got my plant there with the roots evenly spread out, and I will start to put leca in that pot. That is my plant in its pot. Note that I've got leca completely surrounding the plant and none of the roots are exposed. What I will now do is put it in a reservoir, and that reservoir will have my nutrient solution. What is really important when you first move a plant from soil to leca is you treat this plant like you're doing a propagation, like it's a cutting. You're wanting to give it the best conditions that you possibly can. Keep it warm, humid, and lit. Make sure it's got a lot of light. So I put my plants like this one on a heat mat. So it's getting really nice and warm and toasty. I've got it under my grow lights, so it's getting the most amount of light that it can. These are really, really important factors to help your plant acclimate to its new condition. If you're enjoying this video, please do not forget to hit the like button. It really, really helps my channel. Not changing the nutrient solution in your reservoir regularly enough is another reason why soil to leca transfers fail. You need to change the nutrient solution in your reservoir at least once a week. It's very important because that nutrient depletes as time goes on. So there's less and less of the nutrition in that solution as the plant takes that up. But there's also less oxygen. And remember, this plant is really making new roots. It's in a high growth phase. It needs as much nutrition, it needs as much oxygen. So you must change that nutrient solution as many times as you can. Not flushing enough adequately is another problem. I'll show you what happens when you don't flush your plant. This here is my Syngonium red spot. Beautiful plant, living in leca. Look at that white residue. This is called efflorescence. And what this is mineral deposits on your leca from the nutrients and the water that aren't absorbed by the plant. That's what they are living on the top of your leca. This is another plant. This is an African violet that I've got living in leca. Gorgeous plant. But look at that efflorescence. That is the white residue on your leca when you don't flush it. It's really easy. All you need to do is put your plant under a tap, a running tap, and all that will just wash off and dissolve with that water and get off your plant. Another really important thing that flushing will do is it will get rid of some of the roots that have sloughed off, some of the roots that have died. It'll just wash that out. And that means that the environment that your plant is living in is clean and your plant is less likely to get root rot as well. I've got a video where I demonstrate how to flush and I talk a lot about flushing and what flushing is and why you need to do it. Just click on the link above and that'll take you to it. Another thing that you really must do when you're transferring your plant from soil to leca is check on the condition of the roots. That might mean you actually physically take the plant out of the leca and examine it if you're concerned. I generally tend not to do this because I don't like to disturb the roots as much. I'm really hoping that as I'm flushing, a lot of those dead and sloughing of fruits are coming off, which they do. But if you feel that that's not adequate, you can very well take the plant out, try not to disturb the roots as much as you can. And if you see that there's some roots that are looking not so great, you can clip those off, and the plant will hopefully at this stage already have the leca roots, and it should be good to go. Of course, another really very important aspect of moving your plant from soil to leca is nutrient solution. You really need to make sure that you're mixing your nutrient solution the way that you should, depending of course on what nutrients you're using. Follow the instructions on the bottle, the box, whatever. Follow them to the letter. Check your pH if you need to, and your plants will be happy. I know mixing nutrient solution is something that a lot of people get put off by when starting their leca journey, but it's not something that's difficult. You can mix up your nutrient solution and have a large batch. I've got, 5-liter bottles like this of my various nutrient solution. This is the solution that I use when I just first transfer my plant to leca and when I'm doing propagations. So it's there. There's that much in there. I've used that much. So I'll probably need to make a little bit of more of that. And I've got my nutrient solution that I use for my flowering plants. I've got my nutrient solution that I use for my general plant care as well. And I just mix that up, and I'll have that ready to use as often as I need to. So it doesn't have to be a labor-intensive job. But of course, going back on this is making sure that you're changing your nutrient solution regularly. This is really, really important, and I cannot stress this enough. So that's it. If you do these things as I have described them, I see no reason why your soil to leca transitions should not work. They should work. If you've got more questions, check out the playlist that I've got. At the end of this video, I've transitioned heaps and heaps of plants into leca very successfully. There should be something in there for you. If you've got any questions as well, please let me know in the comments below. I'm really, really wanting to hear from you. Have you had any fails moving your plant from soil to leca? What happened? Let me know. Am I talking rubbish? Let me know. I'd really, really love to hear what you think. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.